in this trade, will it go down as one of the worst in NFL history?
Yes,
The worst.
I do. And the reason is because at least with the Herschel Walker trade, at least they made it to the playoffs in Walker's first season. Like, the Broncos have literally nothing to show for this trade for Russell Wilson. I mean, this is a team last year with Nathaniel Hackett, terrible. This year with Sean Payton, his numbers are decent, but you are not paying Russell Wilson this much money to be decent. And I think, like, Brian, you even said it, $85 million dead cap. Like, that is awful. And when you think about how this is a franchise, and really when I look at the Broncos, this is a franchise that, you know, even with Elway as their GM, could not get the QB situation right. They have tried, searched high and low for the next guy, and Russell seemed like he could be that guy. But even when this trade happened, you weren't sure. You were like, okay, let's see if Russ can make it happen here. So really, the Broncos have nothing to show for it except we are now just paying a guy $39 million next year, and he's not even going to be on our team.
Now, you can obviously spread that out depending on the date here in June. Spread cap.
Spread it out. One lump. It's still that's a lot of money.
Is it
Walmart money?
Is it the worst?
It's one of the worst, but I don't think it's the worst. I still think the Herschel Walker trade is the worst because
why?
Because the Herschel Walker trade literally led to a dynasty by the Dallas Cowboys. Think about it. You know, if you think about that trade, remember, you know, for people out there, originally Jimmy Johnson tried to trade away Michael Irvin to the Raiders, to the then Oakland Raiders at the time. Al Davis talked him out of it. So the next person he thought, okay, we need picks and players. Who's the one chip that we have was Herschel Walker.
MVP.
So dealing away Herschel Walker not only got all those picks, but then Jimmy Johnson flipped picks for even more picks to really build out that whole team and turn the Dallas Cowboys to the dynasty that we now know back in the 90s. Now, listen, I know everyone talks about, as it relates to Russell Wilson, you know, the fact that the Denver Broncos didn't reach the postseason. Sean Payton, Denver Broncos right now are clearly in the playoff hunt. They haven't been eliminated.
Right.
This is Sean Payton almost seemingly punting on trying to get to the postseason for financial reasons. We all know what Russell Wilson is owed, but the Denver Broncos have an opportunity, even with Russell Wilson, to try to make the playoffs. The big thing here, in my opinion, we talk about the compensation, all the picks and stuff that was given up. I think for me, the fact that we don't know what the Seattle Seahawks are going to be, even with all the players that they've gotten from this Russell Wilson trade. Now, if they go out there and they win Super Bowls or whatever, then I think it'll solidify it for me. But until we know what's going to happen in the Seattle aspect, for me, I'm still going to go with the Herschel Walker trade.
But the one thing you do see is Seattle making the playoffs, though.
Twice
since he's been gone. Geno Smith.
Geno had a
Look at those
this?
players. Weatherspoon, certified baller, right? You look at Mafe. Like they have the fundamental. They were able to reboot their roster and rescope their team and be able to be able to live with Geno Smith because of the Russell Wilson pick. Yeah. Not to talk about Noah Fant, the players that they already got that was proven. It's hard sometimes because I feel like we're judging the result because we already know the end of the story when you talk about the triplets and what that led to the 3 Super Bowls. But you know, to me, this has to go down as one of the worst, right? And this is Sean Payton really just kind of burning the house down, right? And you can't tell me that he didn't go in there. We heard Antonio Pierce talk about the beautiful PowerPoint presentation that you go in when you're trying to get the job. You can't tell me that he didn't have one that featured Russell Wilson. And the fact that he's given up on the project already means that he already had his mind made up before he went in there, right? So that's why you see him trying to be, you know, creative and think of a reason why. That's why he paused and stuttered so many damn times, like Joe, right? When you think about what he's trying to do, like like he's trying to make it up. Like, listen, make it make sense, right? And we have to start talking about this narrative that we talk about how coaches are guaranteed, but then how they can dump salary and get rid of guys in their contracts when they committed to them, right? He doesn't care because he's going to get paid his money regardless. Sean Payton money is guaranteed. He came and he finding people to blame. If anybody blame Vance Joseph because they lost 3 or 4 games early in the season because the defense sucked. One that we knew that was good the year before because they were top 5. And he came and ruined it, gave up a 70-burger. I didn't know if I was watching the beginning of the NCAA tournament when I saw that score. I thought I misread what the hell the score was, right? So let's blame that on him, right? And the fact that, we knew that when coaches come in, he's going to have a honeymoon phase. And that's what Sean Payton's in, where he had more power. You see him getting rid of Randy Gregory, dumping all the salary they have. They're going to be bad for a couple years. They're going to try and rebuild it. But at the end of the day, once you start pointing the finger at everybody else and you get rid of everybody, at some point you have to point the finger at yourself because now you're going to be held accountable from this point going forward. And we'll see if he has that Joe Gibbs, if he has that Pete Carroll, if he has that, Dick Vermeil. Dick Vermeil. Mm-hmm. Let's see if Sean Payton can have a second act because we rarely see it be successful because they're going to be searching the hardest thing to find of all the sports, and that is a franchise quarterback. And to your point, they haven't found it, whether it was Paxton Lynch, whether it was Tim Tebow. They have had hard time in being able to develop a quarterback. We're in there, right? And we're in it, but they bought Peyton, right? So we're talking about an environment where you don't have patience, and you're in a division with arguably one of the best quarterbacks of a generation, and you have another generational quarterback in Justin Herbert. So we'll see. Right now, you laugh right here, Sean Payton, because you're getting rid of everybody. But the same thing make you laugh, make you cry, because you may be on deck.
I'm kind of surprised that even you didn't bring up Cleveland. How about the Deshaun Watson? Because Cleveland gave up 3 first-round picks. He's barely even played. He's always injured. They gave him a guaranteed $230 million, and on top of that, you got a 38-year-old Joe Flacco
but he's going to be the quarterback next year. I think here's why the Herschel Walker trade isn't that bad. Isn't as bad as this because Sean Payton is already punting on this season and they have a chance to make the playoffs. That's how you know this is a colossal failure because it's not about winning. It's not about we need a spark because they've been playing well enough to have a chance at this point. Yep. We have time to talk about Deshaun. We got 3 more years left on that deal. There's still time to see how that ends.
And the fact that, they're still winning, we get the punt the same way you get to write the narrative when you win. Because right now, we could be talking about the Trey Lance trade and what that was all about, but because they found Brock Purdy, we don't bring that up.
What do you think likely destination for Russ next season?
I was going to say Dance with the Stars. I'm trying to be funny, but I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm truthful. I just don't know if Russell Wilson is made of the type of stuff to kind of get gutter, get gangster, get gritty all over again, right? I don't know after having this prestigious career, this high profile relationship, if he can go back to the basics and go fight for something all over again at the age of 35. I don't know if he's built to that. Only he knows how much he loves football because it's going to be about restoring his reputation more about than securing another bag, right? We talk about Russ Inc. I don't know if that's good for business for him to go out and do the Baker Mayfield route. People talk about Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield never hit the heights that Russell Wilson has hit. We never saw Phillip Rivers be a backup. We see guys of his resume and his stature go on and have high-profile jobs. I just don't know if he's made of that. So that's why I say he's more likely to be with Dancing with the Stars or being on a pregame show than he does in going out and actually playing for another NFL team.
What do you think?
Honestly, all the QB-needy teams that you could think of, Commanders, Falcons, you can name them all. I would say Falcons only because, a couple years ago, they were all in on Deshaun Watson. Literally all in on Deshaun Watson until the Cleveland Browns said, oh no, we're paying him $230 million guaranteed. And the Falcons have not, despite having Desmond Ridder, despite the Taylor Heineke back and forth Ridder situation, they still need somebody. Commanders, I think this piggybacks off Bart's point, which is I don't know if Russell is going to want to go to a team to compete or take a backup job. Because if he wants to take a backup job, he can go a lot of places. But if he wants to go to a team, let's say the Steelers, okay, you think they're kind of a win-now team, right? I'm only going to go to the Steelers. I think that's a special situation. I don't know. I don't like that fit personality-wise. I don't like the Tomlin-Russell, that locker room fit. He's too suburban. It's not going to work. So again, a lot of these teams are rebuilds. A lot of these teams, I think you have to plug Russell into a team that's built to win now. And I don't know the built to win now teams if he's a good fit for them personality.
What do you think?
Yeah, listen, I had said the Atlanta Falcons because I think that The pieces that they have offensively, obviously talk about Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Drake London. They got 3 guys that were drafted in the top 10. So they got talent down there, pretty good offensive line. But I'm going to go back to the conversation we had actually on Get Up this morning. What I said is that I think this whole thing is going to be about how much Russ really loves football. Because we're now in a situation where Russ is not going to be in Denver, but he's guaranteed, regardless of all this stuff, what is it, $39 million?
Yep.
$39 million. He can just sit on his behind for a whole year and collect $39 million. Or do you want to get it out of the mud and go somewhere where you may not even be named the guy? You may have to compete with a draft pick, another veteran, for the starting quarterback position. So that's the real question that I have for Russ Wilson. Like, okay, what now? Do you really love the game of football? Do you really want to go somewhere and kind of reestablish yourself where you don't have this massive contract and you have $39 million coming to you next season regardless? That to me is the real question that relates to Russell Wilson.
And that's a question that every athlete, Damien, Bart, you can speak to this, has to sort of be confronted with. When you are not the guy anymore at your position, when you are not playing at the standard that you once held, your height, you have to sort of rebrand yourself emotionally, intellectually, and say, I'm not that dude, but can I be just one of the guys? Can I be just a decent player?
He's never been
I mean, can I be a decent player? Can I just be, do I have to be the guy? And a lot of players have a hard time, especially at quarterback, even when they haven't been on teams for a long time, understanding.
I have a problem. You know what I think I have a problem with that is because most elite athletes, once you start declining, you're like, I can't be average. When I know I've played at this level and I can't play at that level anymore, it's time for me to go. That's why this whole thing for me is a question of, well, how bad does Russell Wilson love the game of football?
What has this done to his legacy? Because we thought he was on his way to the Hall of Fame.
Well, I think it's taking a sledgehammer to his legacy. I mean, think about this. I'm going to tell you the exact moment where I'm like, it's a wrap for that. Is when Denver traded, when Seattle traded Russ to Denver, and then Geno came in and had better stats than Russell did in the exact same system. That, to me, told me everything I need to hear. A lot of times, man, like, who goes out there and deals with franchise quarterbacks?
You don't unless you know something.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You don't trade away franchise quarterbacks unless you see it every day. Every day. Think about it. Pete Carroll was watching this every single day. And he knew, he's like, all right, I'm going to trade you away. We can live with, I'm going to ride it out with Geno.
And they're not just living. They're not just living, they're thriving.
Right. Like they are living, thriving in this Geno world, and Russell Wilson is over here in Denver and now about to be cast off again.
Bart, what does it do to his legacy?
I mean, I thought that he was on the outside looking in, right? Because I thought that if he'd have won that Super Bowl, the one with beast mode, quarterback, 2 Super Bowls automatically goes in, right? So it left a void in his resume. He still had work to do, like showing that he can be as effective with a new team and he can elevate another franchise. And we're kind of having this argument on Get Up. And what I was talking about is, to me, he's Joe Flacco. And everybody at first glance, they laugh at it. Well, what does the number say? The numbers say Joe Flacco threw for 43,000 and ticking, right? 627 yards. Russell Wilson, 43,653, right? We talk about, both are Super Bowl winners. Joe Flacco's a Super Bowl MVP. Joe Flacco, we talk about his playoff record. I think it's very similar there. We would never mention Joe Flacco in the Hall of Fame, but sometimes, when you think about, we don't really understand the full scope. Pete Carroll knew something because he was protecting Russell Wilson. We heard, all the rumblings from the Legion of Boom and what they said, and, we give them a lot of credit for the success of Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson was never able to do it once the Legion of Boom was dissolved. So I think his Hall of Fame resume, I think, is void and empty.
It's funny that you say Pete Carroll was protecting him because in the end, it was Russell Wilson who was trying to get Pete Carroll out of Seattle.
I think this comes down to, is Russell okay with his story ending like this?
Yeah.
Or is Russell going to be the writer of his own story? He's got the pen. he can dictate how he tweeted, God's got me. So how he chooses to move from now on, that will dictate what kind of career he ultimately ends up. Because he could have a Joe Flacco, Baker Mayfield resurgence where he may not be the guy, but is supplanted into that position. Again, I don't see that happening.
It has to be a perfect situation, and the story has to go perfectly for that to happen. I just don't know what environment that is, because a lot comes with Russell. Remember, he's never been known as a good locker room guy. He's a guy that isolates himself, and I doubt if he goes to a different place, they're going to give him his own office, right? We talk about everything that comes with the production of Russell Inc. So I don't know if somebody wants to put up with that, knowing that the juice may not be worth the squeeze.
Maybe he can learn. Maybe he'll be different.
Yeah.
Oh, he'd get gutter like Rocky going back and fighting with Apollo Creed or something like that.
Just like that. Just like that.
That's what we're talking about. We're going to Philly to go ahead. Mick, I want to throw my right arm.
Yeah, maybe he can. We'll see.
Let's see if he got that gutter in him.
We will see. All right.